Well, hello everyone. Welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. My friends, Joe Biden is preparing to release his formalized national security strategy, which will essentially be the foundation for the actions of every agency in the executive government that is directed towards national security, such as the intelligence agency apparatus and so on and so forth, the FBI, DHS, all of those agencies. Now, he's already released the Interim National Security Guidance. And he released this in March 2021. And the Interim National Security Guidance is full of a bunch of concerning items. It's essentially, and I'll summarize it for you, it's an ode to economic interventionism and military interventionism abroad and economic and social determinism here at home. And that's a very succinct and concise way to put it. This weekend on Saturday, I will be doing a full episode on the guidance and its implications on the Pensive Politics podcast, which will be posted right here on this channel. I am so excited. It'll be wonderful, and you cannot miss it because this guidance has immense implications for our nation on both a philosophical level and a existential level as well. It hits both places, and I'm going to try to walk through that clearly. But what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to focus on a particular part of the guidance and show how it demonstrates a flaw in these abstract concepts that seem to rule the day in the halls of power, but are so amendable by those who are within those halls. So, in the National Security Interim Guidance, there is one section that is particularly concerning above all, and this is a section that says the following: because traditional distinctions between foreign and domestic policy and among national security, economic security, health security, and environmental security are less meaningful than ever before, we will reform and rethink our agencies, departments, interagency processes, and White House organization to reflect this new reality. Now, a good article over at thehill.com mentions how this initiative that I just cited to you, that is within the 24-page National Security Interim Guidance, is going to negatively impact the capacity of government agencies, because you have a lot of practical complications with making agencies whose previous job was to simply protect America from external threats and from internal subversion, now basically making them carriers of social justice, racial justice, climate justice, and other phrases that that President Biden uses extensively in this national security guidance. Again, if you want to read the guidance for yourself, it'll be in the description down below, not the comment section, the description down below. But beyond the practical implications, because it's very easy to look at something and say, you don't have enough money for that, or you don't have enough capacity for that. That's easy, and that's all fine. But if we presumed a world in which we did have the money or the capacity to execute any given idea, would that make the idea just? Of course not. We have to ensure the idea is just or unjust on the basis of its merits, measuring it against the standard of natural justice found in natural law deduced through reason. The problem why guidances like this can even be considered legitimate in contemporary America is because so many people, well, first of all, so many people are tone deaf and they are focused on things that don't actually matter. We have a culture of mass distraction that is pushing us away from things that are going to be consequential to the perseverance and perpetuation of human liberty, but also because when the word national security is uttered, in the eyes of many people, not everybody, but in the eyes of many people, it simply means preserving the homeland. There are a good majority of a good swath of people, rather, in this country that will hear the word national security and they will think, well, America has a lot of enemies, China, Russia, Iraq, or whatever, and those enemies are out to destroy us, ergo, we need to defend ourselves. And then that'll allow them to accept the idea without actually investigating what the idea is. This is knowledge by proximity. When you look at an idea and you immediately associate it with things that come to your mind, whether it be, in this case, China or Russia, as opposed to actually looking at the idea's foundations, which are more enduring than any contemporary temporal rather, geopolitical threat, then you can easily make that idea be based on circumstance. But when national security is solely based on circumstance and not on principle, it is not secure in and of itself. If you have a foundation that is based on circumstance and will change with the wind, it is not by definition a foundation. This is the problem with utilitarianism. Because utilitarianism in ethics tries to append moral value to what most people will find pleasurable, without actually considering if that thing is in principle pleasurable to morality. Rather, the morality is the perception, the whim, and anything else is discarded. And that is essentially what we have had here with this idea of national security. It's what justified the USA Patriot Act, which essentially justified mass surveillance of American citizens. It's what justified its illegitimate cousin, the USA Freedom Act, which continued a lot of the Patriot Act's nonsense. It's what justified killing American citizens on foreign soil, which Barack Obama did without due process in the name of national security, because apparently they're terrorists. It's what has justified the absolute smearing of Edward Snowden for simply revealing immoral acts because he allegedly broke the law without actually considering that there is a law higher than that which is dictated by the government, that the government is supposed to be bound to, but as Snowden revealed and as others have revealed along the years, they are not bound to or they have not been adhering to. It's what happens because all of these things are linked to proximity of an understanding of what one thinks national security is, or what the intelligence apparatus says it is, because they always define national security. Think about this. The intelligence apparatus always defines national security in terms of threats, or even people who have the same perception as them. Look at Hillary Clinton when she was talking about Syria during her presidential campaign, how she wanted to enact a no-fly zone over Syria, even though that would have inevitably called nuclear war, not nuclear, maybe not nuclear, perhaps nuclear, it would have called some kind of conflict with Russia. Look at Lindsey Graham when he harps on about war and all that kind of. Look at him. They when they talk about national security, it's always framed in the term of threats, not in the term of foundations. My friends, the word national security, when it is expanded beyond its original premises, is foundationally unstable. But even before it gets to that point, the word national security, when it is determined not by an objective set of metrics, but by the ever-flowing waters of political power, is not any kind of security whatsoever. It is in fact cold comfort for Americans and warm comfort for those who call the shots. National security is essentially anything those who are within the executive government, those who are on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and others who are connected with certain areas of the government decide it is. National security has meaning and principle, most certainly, but who sets the standards for that meaning? DHS does, the CIA does, the FBI do. And these are not actors who are adhering to general principles. These are actors who are trying to first and foremost preserve their own agencies and then preserve the geopolitical aims that are connected with their agencies. It's within the CIA's interest to have an interventionist military because that then increases the grounds for them to do intelligence in other countries and then use that intelligence in ways that are advantageous to them. It's in the FBI's interest to drum up a white supremacist threat in America, even though you are very unlikely to be killed by a white supremacist in a mass shooting. In fact, mass shootings are less than 3% of all killings or whatever, maybe even less than that, and car crashes are more. It's within their interests because it gives them legitimacy. I'm not saying that everything the FBI and the CIA do is lying. What I'm saying is the term national security, when it is set by the very same people who enforce it, cannot be held to be objective. It is rather an abstract term that means whatever the person wants it to mean in reality. And of course, how can you govern on the basis of an abstraction that does not touch the cold, hard ground of reality? Imagine this. Would a river still be a river if it stopped moving? By definition, it would not be. But if I could create some kind of invisible machine and blow an immense amount of wind downstream of a river, and the river has the appearance of movement, would that make it seem more like a river than if it had no movement at all? Of course it would. What is my point? My point is very simple. I can say that I want to defend the nation and preserve its national security, and I can have an approximation of what that means. But I can also do something that is entirely opposite to what that means. I'm one in the traditional sense. I believe the government is responsible for providing for the national defense. I believe that it is part of the government's duties and is essential for a nation, especially a nation full in a world full of threats like we are dealing with. Having said that, does that necessarily mean that we have to begin doing racial equity at home? Does that necessarily mean that we have to begin, as the Biden administration said, giving billions of dollars in foreign aid to Latin American countries and other countries around the world to ensure their economic and health security? No, because it mixes up moral obligation with geopolitical expediency. Guys, you don't understand. This is deep. This is deep, guys. Here's the point. As public choice economics shows us, politicians and government officials, they are self-interested, they are political actors, they are interested in what benefits them or what benefits their institution. And so any concept, any governing concept you have that comes into contact with them will be molded like Play-Doh into their image. And if there is no objective basis in reality for a certain concept that by which anyone, regardless of where they are, can look at it and say, okay, it means this, that, and this, and there is instead a subjective emphasis based on geopolitical realities, based on administrative proposition, and not on moral right, then what happens is quite disastrous. What happens is there's no guarantee for consistency, there's no guarantee for moral accountability, and most importantly, there's no guarantee for truth. Because truth cannot exist in the presence of subjectivity, truth cannot exist in the presence of falsehood, and truth most certainly cannot exist in the presence of a politician molding a word as old as man, security, to fit his aims. There's no truth in that, and it would benefit all of us to recognize that. Think on it. My friends, I love you guys so much. If you love me, please go to my Patreon, patreon.com/officialcwatson, or PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com, or please get me on my Discord, which is comment section down below. On my locals, christianwatson.locals.com. Please be sure to comment on the video, share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. The guidance will be in the description down below. My friends, I love you guys so much, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.